बोलिए सतगुरु महाराज की जय, सच्चे दरबार की जय. Thank you everyone for connecting with us for today's discourse. I'm sure we all learned opposites as a young child. Dark versus light, young versus old. Our world is built and maintained on the idea of polar opposites for everything. Good and evil, day and night, pleasure and pain, happiness and sorrow. And we tend to hold on to one extreme and avoid the other. We enjoy experiences of happiness, but we want to avoid experiences of sorrow. We indulge in pleasures, but we want to avoid any circumstances that cause us pain. And this is true, this concept of extremes and opposites, it can be seen in so many aspects of our life. For example, in parenting, you see the overprotective parent that builds a boundary for their child and asks the child to stay within the boundaries so that they don't get hurt, so that they're safe. And on the other hand is the freewheeling parent that has no boundaries, tells the child, go do whatever you want, be happy, don't worry about getting hurt. And each extreme thinks that they're right and the other is wrong. But data shows that both paths lead to the same end, a sense of drowning. This theory is called the Horseshoe Theory in political science, which explains that the far left and the far right parties, although being on opposite spectrums, they still horseshoe out into the same. They have so many resemblances. They have the same logic. They have the same pitfalls. And they both are right when they call each other hypocrites, because they both have the same contradictions. And the same is true for life. We often put materialistic world and spiritual world on two opposite ends of a spectrum. And we feel that if you are a materialistic person, then you cannot be a spiritual person. And if you want to explore the spiritual world, if you want to be a spiritual being, then you have to renounce the materialistic world. Buddha was under the same impression. He was born in a kingdom, had all the luxuries of the world, and he indulged in all the pleasures, but yet found an emptiness within that cannot be fulfilled. So he decided to renounce everything and take up the spiritual path, to such extremity that he performed such great austerities. He starved himself, he deprived himself of sleep, until one day he collapsed. And it was through the grace of his master that he recognized that he had to reject both self-mortification and self-indulgence in order to be truly awakened. That he had to find the middle path. It is then that he recognized that he needed his body, that his body was a vehicle for his soul to fulfill its purpose. And he went on to teach his disciples the same middle path. One of his disciples, Sona, was from an affluent family, had great wealth, but one day decided to leave everything and take up the monk order. And it was with great zeal, with great passion, that he spent hours on end practicing, until finally one day he thought he wasn't getting anywhere. And he went to Buddha with his situation, with his problem, where he felt discouraged, that he practiced for hours on end, but he feels like he hasn't gotten anywhere, that maybe meditation is not for him and he should leave it and go back into the materialistic world. Sona used to play the lute, which is a string instrument. So Buddha asks him, if you tighten the strings of the lute too tight, will you be able to strike a melody? Sona says, no. I might actually end up breaking the string. He says, what if you loosen the strings too much? Would you be able to strike a melody then? Sona says, no, it's not possible. Buddha says, what if you tighten the strings but not too tight, or loosen the strings but not too loose? Then will you be able to strike a melody? Sona says, yes, definitely. So Buddha explains to him that if you truly want to be an enlightened being, then you have to find the middle path. You cannot be on either extreme and be enlightened. The materialistic world and the spiritual world are like two wings of a bird. They both are needed in order for the bird to fly. So, only accepting happiness and rejecting sorrow, only attaching ourselves to good and avoiding evil does not make us an enlightened being. Aristotle calls it the golden mean. He explains where the virtue is the mean between two extremities, where each extreme is a vice. We are often told, we often recognize virtues as being good and vices as being bad. But Aristotle explains how virtues are the middle path. It's neither extreme. He explains how modesty is a virtue, but in its deficient state, it's humility, and in its excess state, it's pride. Another example, courage is a virtue, and in its deficient state, we call it cowardice, and in its excess state, it's rashness. So Aristotle explains that enlightenment, in order to imbibe virtues, we have to find the mean, the middle path. This middle path is referred to as Stitya Pragya in the Bhagavad Gita, which means steady wisdom, where one is neither affected by gains nor affected by loss. Lord Krishna explains not to be happy in extreme happiness and not to be sad in extreme sadness, but to be still in both experiences, in both situations. In order to be an enlightened being, we have to learn to live in the state of equilibrium. There's a story of a farmer who tended to his farms for many, many years. His son helped him in their daily chores. One day, their only horse runs away. The people of the town come to share in his sadness and say, "It is such bad luck." The farmer replies, "Maybe." The next day, that horse returns with 3 wild horses. Again, the people of the town come and say, "This is amazing. This is such good luck. From one horse, you have 4 horses now." The farmer again replies, "Maybe." The next day, the son tries to ride one of the wild horses and ends up falling from the horse and breaking his leg. The people of the town again come by to offer their condolences and say that it is really sad that your son broke his leg. The farmer again says, "Maybe." The next day, the military comes to recruit youth for the military, but seeing that the farmer's son had broken his leg, they pass him by. The people of the town again come and say, "You have such good luck. At least your son is still going to be around to help you with your chores." The farmer again replies, "Maybe." Like the people of the town, we often feel the need to define each experience of our life as good or bad, as right or wrong. But that farmer traveled the middle path. He stayed in that state of equilibrium, that state of stable mind. And in order for one to be stable, we need to connect to our center. In a spider web, the center of the spider web is the strongest point, and that is where the spider stays mostly. Just like that, our center, which is our soul, is our strongest point, is what will bring us stability. Connection to our soul will bring us stability. Our energy travels through our left and right channels throughout the day, through the lunar and solar channels, through the Ida and Pingala. But when we're awakened, when we're initiated into Brahmgyan, then we train our energy to go through the central channel, which is Sushumna. And as energy travels through that central channel, we learn to become still. We learn to live in that state of equilibrium. We don't jump from one extreme to the other, from one experience to the other, from a high to a low, from happiness to sadness, but we learn to find stillness in all experiences. We learn to be still in happy moments and stay still in sad moments. We learn to be of a steady mind. And it is this experience, when we learn to be of a steady mind, that we can truly call ourselves enlightened beings. So brothers and sisters, forgo the ideas of attaching yourself to good and rejecting evil, of only wanting to experience happiness and avoiding moments of sadness. Instead, find the middle path. The more you practice your meditation, the more your energy will avoid the left and right channels and travel through the central channel, through the Sushumna, so that you can stay in a state of equilibrium like that farmer in every situation. He wasn't sad when his horse ran away. He wasn't happy when his horse came back with 3 more. He wasn't sad when his son broke the leg. He wasn't happy when his son stayed back to help him with his chores. He stayed in a state of stillness, in a state of steadiness. And that state of steadiness is what we can attain through continuous and constant practice, so that we can become enlightened beings and live our lives not in darkness, but in enlightenment. So brothers and sisters, till next time, continue to stay safe, continue to practice as much as possible. Try to live in moments of stillness. Try to live in a state of equilibrium through constant practice. On that note, we'll conclude today's discourse. Boliye Satguru Maharaj ki Jai, Sache Darbar ki Jai.